2:30, and I will open this Grand County workshop of special event intent to apply review. Present are Commissioners Kevin Walker, Bill Winfield, Trish Hedin, Mike McCurdy, Mary McGann, and myself, Jacques Hadler, as well as County Attorney Stephen Stocks, County Administrator or County Clerk Gabe Wojtek, County Administrator Mallory Nassau, and Associate County Administrator Quinn Hall. And I think that's it. We can get to it and start discussing these special events for Q4 2023. All right. I don't know. Mackenzie, was she planning on being here? Mallory, do you know?
Yes. She's going to be on. Is she on Zoom?
So we've been provided with materials. I think the calendar is helpful to look at. And I remember the last time we haven't done this in a little while, right? Was
last quarter.
Not since last quarter. So and if one of the other commissioners would refresh my memory, we had a process for looking at the events. I think Kevin, you were the one that might have suggested that with was it grouping them by date? Do we go by month to month?
I was on the phone for the previous. In fact, I think I missed the workshop.
That's right.
But I was here 6 months ago.
I think on the agenda summary, they're numbered out by the month.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
And I think we did a one by one according to month. We looked at the month in the calendar and made sure we didn't get a whole bunch on the same day.
Right. And then did we and then in the workshop, we're not going to.
We tried to do a straw.
Here's Mackenzie. Hello, welcome, Mackenzie. That's okay. Yes. Great. And then, so we're not gonna, the workshop is gonna just inform our agenda item number 1, where we will ultimately approve or not approve an intent to apply.
That event calendar is small on my computer.
Mallory did print a few up, so that we should have a print. We should have a printed copy.
Wow.
Sorry, how good are you?
I see. I can read this.
I know you're trying to save paper.
Anybody wants a full size?
No, we're
I can
fine.
see it.
We're fine with-
I've increased it on my computer. I just
So should I just announce the event and then we'll quick discussion of each one? Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. All right. So the first one we're looking at is the 2023 Land Rover National Rally. And everyone can see that you can pull this, the application up in the workshop materials on the website, right?
do we want to put it on the so other people can see what we're talking about?
That's not a bad idea. Did you hear that, Mallory? Cool. Thank you. I don't know, Mick, should we have Mackenzie, do you want to speak to each one of these events as they pop up?
Yeah, I can go over them.
Okay.
So the Land Rover National Rally motorized with some 4x4 trails during their event time. They've got approximately max 200 people coming with 100 vehicles. Their expo is going to be based out of OSTA. They'll be riding BLM trails later. They are a family-based event. They alternate every other year coming here. So they pick Moab every other year and then go somewhere else. I think usually in Colorado, the off years. So their last event was here in 21, and they have been a reoccurring event since 2012. And they have a multi-year SRP with BLM.
Okay.
Can we ask questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
My only question was, have there been any issues with this event in the past?
No, they're pretty,
Not that you know.
pretty local
Okay.
guys, pretty nice to work with
Okay.
here.
And so they've done every other year since 2012, you said,
Yes,
basically.
that's correct.
It says 30 years on the permit.
I think probably unofficially they've been coming,
Okay,
but officially they said it's in their, a lot of this verbiage is taken directly from their intent to apply. So in their intent to apply, they said since 2012.
what do you guys think? Should we, after discussion, should we do a quick straw poll for each one of these things? Or
think
what,
that sounds
Kevin, did you have a better
I
idea?
think it makes sense to go through all of them because I think.
Go through
I
everything
mean,
first
I
and
don't-
then,
I don't actually think the calendar's crowded this time.
right,
It's not a whole lot of hard decisions,
okay.
but in general, we might be looking at, an over concentration and you want to hear from all the events before.
That sounds like a good idea.
And Mackenzie, just really quick, they're up on this calendar too, right? Is that
I
correct?
have not updated that count.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Not
any,
reported for.
any other questions for Mackenzie or discussion about the Land Rover event?
That was a very nice summary. Thanks.
Yeah.
Correct level of detail. Exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, Rexy, Queen of the Desert, 2023.
So this one is October 7th. It's a cycling event. They have max registrants of 300 participants. They ride from Fruita to Moab, or Moab to Fruita, I'm sorry, the other way around. They state that they're a gravel dirt bike event. It begins here in Moab at the Dinosaur Center, out there on the edge of town. And they ride along the I-70 dirt roads, north of I-70, sorry. And they end up in Fruita. This is their third year for this event with no proposed changes from past year's events. According to them, they encourage and promote diversity and inclusion in the sport by offering participation incentives to female riders. They have a multi-year SRP with the BLM. They did receive a permit last year when we started this process. And then I believe this is the event that just through the rumor mill, there was not any kind of issue. They did have a dehydration situation with a participant on the trail, which I believe they use Mesa County Emergency Services for. So that has kind of spurred maybe a potential EMU, I believe, between our counties and Mesa, but no real issue.
So it starts out at the Dinosaur Museum and then goes like northeast, more or less. Yeah. I'll go out on a limb and say Morgan Murray beat me in a 6th place sprint in the Grand Fondo a few years ago. So I'll disclose that. I wasn't happy about it.
Huh, okay. And I think, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, that we have an agreement with Mesa County when it's really close to the Colorado border, isn't it? That they send for their search and rescue. Okay.
I haven't heard anything. There's just been comments.
I know, right, okay. Thank you.
And they are running event, they're getting ready to run an event, the Cotu Utah event.
Right.
So, and these are reoccurring events.
Yeah.
The Cotu Utah event happens coming up here in May.
Awesome. Any other discussion or questions? Let's move on to the Jeep Jamboree in October Expedition 2023.
It's their smaller expedition ride plus their bigger Jamboree Expo. The expedition will occur October 11th to the 14th, and then their Jamboree will be the 26th to the 28th. The expedition will send about 15 people and 8 vehicles out on the Eastern Jeep Safari trails. And then the Jamboree will have a max of 300 people with 135 vehicles out at OSTA. And they will be doing some trail rides during that event too after the expo. The background here is the expedition is a smaller guided off-roading experience.
And that one is literally like 6 to 8 vehicles.
Yeah, it's a smaller, and they've done this for quite a while. The expeditions, they just found out last year that the smaller expeditions needed a special event permit.
Okay.
So we permitted their May expedition, but we declined their bigger May Jamboree because of congestion and stuff like that. But they decided to come back for an October event because they really wanted to hold their Jamboree here. The Jamboree is a family-oriented event for all those who love the off-road activities. They will be out at the arena for their Jamboree. They hold a multi-year SRP with the BLM. They received a permit in 2022 for these events. And in May of 2022 for the smaller expedition. They're a founding member of Tread Lightly. They encourage and promote responsible outdoor activities. And they donate proceeds, a portion of their proceeds to charitable organizations like Military Mobility and True Patriot.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion on the Jeep Jamboree? So was this the Jeep Jamboree? Did they hold an event in the spring or?
They did not.
They did not. Okay. So traditionally they have the fall slot. Was that right? That's okay.
I think they do a spring and a fall, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, I thought there was an issue that they traditionally did one and they were wanting to expand it twice a year. But maybe I'm
I
misremembering.
don't know that part. That's
Okay.
historical information. I don't have.
Angie, why don't you come forward? You would.
Join it.
Thanks, Angie.
So typically they do a fall, but last year they wanted to add a spring.
Okay.
The year before they did do a small spring.
Okay.
Okay, and then, but in the, like 6 months ago, we turned them down for the spring because of just general congestion.
So their traditional date's been the fall. They've done a fall event for years.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
That would be the jamboree.
Yeah, right. Okay. Any other questions on that one? Go to the Moab 240 endurance race.
Yep, this one's October 9th through the 18th. They've got a max registration of 200 participants.
Is that because it takes them 9 days to complete 240 miles of running?
You know, 2 of those days I believe are set up.
Right.
So this is just the permit duration, I believe. But yeah, it's 240 miles.
Yeah, I know I've encountered them. This event's gone on for quite a while and I've encountered them out on the trail after they've been out for 200 miles.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Intense.
impressive endeavor.
Yeah, so they start and finish at the Sun Outdoors Arches Gateway RV Park. They've been running this event annually since 2017. They run through Lockhart Basin and the
Abajo.
and LaSalle Mountains.
It's actually a typo in the description.
Oh, okay, I copied and pasted. So, they state they have a multi-year SRP from the BLM and the Forest Service already. Did receive a permit in 22, a special event permit in 22, and they have partnered with the Utah State University to create scholarship and internship programs for resource management students.
They're not the expo. They're not. Correct?
They're not a what? I'm sorry.
Alternate off.
No, this is just road trail running.
So there's no.
All right, any other questions about the 240 endurance run? Okay, we'll move on to the 40th anniversary celebration of the Jeep Cherokee.
This one does have Arena Expo with 4x4 trails. They're gonna be out here October 16th to the 21st. They've got a max registration of 150 people and 50 vehicles. They're based out of Osta. Their expo is going to be at Osta, I'm sorry, on the 18th. However, they're going to be using the Moab KOA as kind of their registration area and their meetup area. And then they'll be hitting some motorized trails as well. This is the North American XJ Association. They're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the introduction of the Jeep Cherokee, XJ. And they traditionally hold an event here in Moab every 5 years. They've been doing so since 2003. And they're just a club of enthusiasts that really like Jeep vehicles. So it's a family-friendly event, and they have a multi-year SRP from the BLM as well.
Yeah, Trish?
No, just so we're aware, like that one, the Jeep Jamboree starts on the 11th. And then pretty much, we'll go all the way till the 28th. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, just so we know.
Right.
Just aware that there's Jeep events from the 11th all the way to the 28th.
They don't cross over.
No, they don't cross over. They just like back to back to back. Just pointing that out.
All right. Moving on to the Red Canyon Powwow 2023.
This one's October 20th through the 22nd. They're anticipating about 1,000 participants. They didn't really estimate kind of spectators. We didn't really get into that quite yet, and we're adjusting the application so we can capture that data a little bit better ahead of time. The background is the powwow. Oh, they'll be at the arena. The powwow 2-day cultural celebration. They stayed at a place where people from all over the world are able to meet Indigenous peoples and learn history through Indigenous dance and traditional singing. It's a safe place for children, and they bring people together from all ages and backgrounds. Visitors will have a chance to shop from local Indigenous artists and try Indigenous cuisine while listening to the sounds of the First People. This is their 3rd consecutive year here in Grand County, and they engage the community not just through their festival out at the arena, but they go into the schools.
Yeah, I've attended this the last couple of years with my kids, and it's been a pretty awesome
And then
event.
last year it rained, is that right? You
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
didn't
we
go
did.
inside.
The mad rush. for
Okay,
the
and
day
that'll-
of it. It was
okay.
supposed to be outside. They really like being outside, but they got snow last year.
Yeah.
I know,
So
yeah.
that morning we hurried and put everything inside.
And you pulled it off well, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they liked having it inside. They liked the control of it, so they're still trying to decide what location of the property they're gonna use this year.
And it held them, right?
It seemed to, yeah, I think it was, yeah,
Inside.
it was a great event. It was well attended.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Any questions about the powwow? Museum of Film and Western Heritage ribbon cutting.
Yeah, so Red Cliffs Lodge is opening a museum of that title. They're not exactly sure. There's just not a lot of specifics on this event. They filed this ITA about a year ago as well, from the time they're thinking about holding it. So I think we got this data in October, and I've talked to them since. And it really just hasn't changed much because they're not done with the building. But they wanted to be able to get this in for consideration in case they met a 2023 opening date.
Okay.
So when they open this museum, they want to be able to host a ribbon cutting ceremony out there.
Okay.
Right, there's
How many participants were they anticipating?
400 approximately.
Right on. And Brian just showed up, so we're just talking about the ribbon cutting, Brian. Okay, any other questions on this one?
No.
So is it likely to happen this quarter or?
It's 50-50.
Okay.
She told me last time.
Great. All right, we're on to the Moab Kragan Classic.
So this is November 3rd to the 5th. It's a climbing festival. Its max participants are 350. It's going to be out at the arena. They do send people out for climbing clinics and stuff like that. The background is they stayed as a grassroots desert climbers festival. They gather to learn new skills, meet new climbing partners, and give back to local crags and celebrate the climbing community. It's been a reoccurring event. They did receive a 2022 permit. It offers clinics taught by local guides and pros. They have advertised in the past, and this is just historical research. They do have evening events hosted, and it includes talent shows, costume contests, gear giveaways, silent auction, and a silent disco. And I believe all this is Elvidos does.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, right. Of it.
The evening was not. Was not children and the day was children, or was that another?
There's a couple.
I think that's the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think this is.
Evenings. I would say it's more adult based.
Have you, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
The day is for.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any problems with this event?
No, it's pretty
Okay,
mild.
okay.
It's usually just myself, and it's towards the end of the year, so I'm usually watching the overtime budget.
Right,
So it's usually just me and the assistant director working it.
okay,
It's pretty mild.
that's good.
Mhm.
Jacques, do you, and this is me just trying to bring back my memory. Do you remember last year? Do you remember hearing that? I can't remember if it was this event that it had it had definitely been storming and they climbed.
Oh, when it
Do
was
you
wet.
remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
And that was
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
vaguely triggers a memory.
So
I
it
don't,
might
I don't
just be
recall that.
something to like really reiterate,
Mhm.
like, and I shouldn't have, we shouldn't have to tell
Right.
them that.
I think the event holder knows about that and they addressed it because she even came to me before that and
Okay.
said that they had to close down certain ones.
Okay,
I could follow up on that, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure she
maybe
found
just
out about that after the fact.
really reiterate.
Their
the ethics
Yeah.
website
of the
said they
desert.
did shut it down, but I think participants may have still gone out
Okay.
and stuff.
Right. Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure.
And just for the record, what Trish is referencing is climbing when it's wet here, the sandstone's really soft and it loses literally like 50% of its strength whenever it's wet. So climbing on it can be very detrimental.
Right. To the rock and to the person. that
Person
falls
climbing
on
it.
Yeah, that doesn't fall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do. Now that you mentioned it, Trish, I do remember that. Okay. And then the Moab Trail Marathon.
Yeah, this one's November 3rd to November 5th. It's a running event. They have max 2,000 participants throughout the weekend. They're expecting each day, they've capped each day at 900. They're going down the Cane Creek Trail system. It is a family event. They do have a kids K as well as 10.5 marathon distances. It's locally sponsored. This event was permitted in 2022, and they do donate portions of their proceeds to local nonprofits such as the Humane Society, Grand County Search and Rescue, and Community Rebuilds.
And they're not in Ulster, so there's no crossover.
And this is the one, so 2 years ago, I remember there was an issue with them having packet pickup out at the
Right.
Massa Back trailhead, and it was creating a
Yeah.
big traffic jam out there. And I think
Okay.
last year they moved it back into town, and I was just wondering if anyone had heard any feedback about if it,
No, but I remember that.
right.
Right.
I don't remember last year recalling that there was any issues with it. So,
But I know that, yeah, like you said, here before.
any other questions on that one? All right, Rally on the Rocks 2023.
All right, November 6th to November 11th. It's an expo. The expo part will be out at the arena, and they're gonna have motorized 4x4 trail rides. They've got max 800 participants registered with 300 vehicles. The background Rally on the Rock states they consist of professionally guided trails for street legal only UTVs in groups of no more than 25 going out on the trail. They'll have the vendor show out at the arena. This show is open to the public and free of charge. They also host free education courses that consist of trail safety and conservation. They'll be doing camping at Osta as well. They do have their multi-year SRP from the BLM. They state that they're considered the #1 training event in the state of Utah for UTV trail use and conservation by the BLM. Over the previous 5 years, Rally on the Rocks has provided close to $100,000 in charitable donations to Grand County, and participants have also helped do trail recovery and rehabilitation during through volunteer programs.
When was the last year that this was held? Just so-
2019.
2019 was canceled because of COVID.
Right. Rally on the Rocks, questions, comments? We certainly received a
Bulk emails.
yes.
I didn't know, camping is to Oster grounds or participant camping is on Oster grounds.
Participant camping is the most
It's an offer, right, but not required.
correct. But I think in the past, they've had like up to 300 people camping on the property.
In the past, the majority of them stay up.
I mean, I might ask that question maybe of Quinn, because I did, and I'm not picking on you. I just, I wouldn't consider them bulk emails, meaning like they were all like the same template. We had a
Right.
lot of emails. Quinn, do you know the numbers? Do you have a general idea or no?
Well, he had a good idea.
He had a good idea,
Yeah,
but they're still coming in, so.
Let's say it seemed like it was north of 100.
It was over 100. I started tallying, overwhelmed. Had too much to do.
78 to 53, 78 down.
Okay, right. So 58 in support, 78 opposed. Okay, thank you.
And of those 53 that wanted the event, approximately what percentage were from out of town?
No, a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Right. Yeah, there was, okay, thank you.
Comment, questions? All right, we'll move on to the GGBY Highline Gathering 2023.
November 18th to November 24th, it's a climbing festival. It takes place in the Fruit Bowl. Got max 200 registered participants. It's a slackline gathering festival. It's a 5-day gathering. It is held the week of Thanksgiving. This year marks their 5th year. It is family friendly, but as you guys pointed out on another event, it does have adult only activity for 21 and older activities in the evening. Other activities include highlining, ground, slackline, space nets, daytime workshops on activities such as learning, highline, yoga, and more. Their evening activities include a film festival, a DJ performances, and a silent disco. They have their multi-year SRP from the BLM. They organized officially in 2017 to decrease unofficial gatherings in hopes of mitigating negative impact of such events on the surrounding environment. The organization provides over 50 community engaging workshops, and the Slackline company has raised $6,000 in donations to the BLM, and will be partnering with more community-based groups in 2023.
And all the events take place out at the Fruit Bowl,
Yeah,
like the film and everything else.
I think EMS responded to an event last year because they did get their 2022 permit. This is the one, but it wasn't a participant of the activity. They happened to be out there. I think it was a base jumper. Or I can't even remember. Yeah. So they weren't really part of it, but it was happening during the activities. I think that's what EMS. I remember reading the notes on it that they submitted last year. So that's the only report I've received back to previous years.
So they've got a permit for 5 years,
I think
or they've been doing it for 5 years.
they've been doing it for 5 years. They've had their SRP for a while through the BLM, and then they did receive their special event permit last year.
And they offer free shuttles too, which is good.
Yeah.
I don't know this area. Jacques, do you know this area? I mean,
Out at the Fruit Bowl, you mean?
yeah,
Physical area, not super well. I know how Roaring Canyon a little bit, but I actually haven't participated or been out to the Fruit Bowl
have you
myself.
guys? Is it like conducive to large crowds, or are they just hammering the desert? Like,
They are having a great time along the edge of the cliff, and some of them are out there where I don't want to go, but I admire them for what they do. I don't see it whatsoever, but
well, what I'm asking is like soil crust, and you know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, BLM oversees that part of it. I don't think that that's our responsibility. That's would be with their
well, it's
BLM.
our responsibility to give a permit or not.
Right.
So,
Which is-
I mean, I just haven't been to that country. It concerns me that, I mean, I've been to a lot of canyon rims. It's, you know, and usually.
I mean, I haven't been to that exact, well, not recently anyway, but it does seem like the area where this type of activity occurs the most. So I imagine that most of the damage that could be done has already been done. And, you know,
It's a lot of sandstone. I mean, it's mostly rock. I guess, you know, you can get out into the sagebrush in the desert, but
It does sound like they're working with BLM to keep people in designated areas.
Okay,
for these
that would be good.
activities.
And I believe the BLM also has monitors on site
Okay.
as
that-
well. I think
that would be
I
good. Okay.
have known some BLM folk who've been out there during the event. So I think they do have a presence.
Okay.
I think they've had law enforcement there.
Sure,
And
right.
I don't know that they're full time.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sometimes they request it.
but Yeah.
That helps. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments on GGBY? Dead Horse Ultra?
This is November 17th to the 18th. It's a running event. They have max cap of 1,200 participants. They are based out of the 7 Mile RV campground parking lot. And they will be going up Gemini Bridges and Max 7 trail system. They started in 2014. They run a 50 mile, a 50K, a 30K distance. They bring in locals and visitors to celebrate this running event. They pick November because it is a little bit slower time too. They're trying to, it's Matt Moose. They do try to host events slower times this season. They have their multi-year SRP from the BLM. They are locally sponsored. They support and engage local businesses by hiring local personnel. They donate to local charitable organizations and nonprofits and can participate in community projects and sponsored events. And they work to decrease the impact on the local environment by recycling, composting, limiting single-use containers where possible.
And they stage out of the, you said 7 Mile? Is that Tracy Balsley's?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that one, like out,
Right at where Gemini Bridges Roads
yeah,
pops out, yeah, right. Yeah.
And then Justin and Niece, it's been good. You
yeah,
guys have
no issues.
good feedback.
Yeah, no issues with their events.
Okay, cool.
Been really easy to work with.
I don't have many events this quarter.
Nothing in December, so it's.
So I guess I had a question about some things that are not on the list. I think a preliminary list of ITAs I saw included some for the spring, people kind of turning them in earlier than they needed to.
Yeah, so those are under review of the committee. A lot of them are obviously high impact, but we were gonna do them in the scheduled quarterly review. They came in, just let them know that if they were high impact, then they would have to go through.
Okay.
And that was gonna include Arches Ultra so far, I think Moab Red Hot, Skinny Tire, Canyonlands, and Behind the Rocks.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, but I think when we were, debating the ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mallory, I thought we wanted to give an option for, like well-established events that have, been held a long time without any complaints, and that we're almost certainly going to approve to allow their ITA to get approved earlier, just so they would have the, the peace of mind that they can start, committing to that date. So I would think, I think it's too late for this meeting, but in future meetings, we might want to look at those, and then we have the option of, sort of saying, 3 months earlier than we would otherwise, yeah, this is okay. Though they should probably then still come back at the next quarter review, just so we can see the complete calendar. Is that?
Like the Jeep Safari.
Yeah, Jeep Safari is a great example.
Of course, we don't permit.
Yeah, that's city.
Does that sound right to you, Mallory? Or?
Yeah, that sounds right, and I know we've talked about some tweaks to the special event ordinance. So maybe we could go to something like the legacy events, or even what we had a few years ago, where it was like a pre-authorized list. So once a year, I think we did it once in our many ordinance changes, but it wouldn't change much. It was just the ability to bring something to the commission.
Yeah, we could do that, but I think what's already in place now gives us the flexibility to allow, events like the Jeep Safari or the half marathon or something to get approved earlier than they otherwise would. So we should probably start taking advantage of that.
I can prep that for this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone through and discussed each one of the events. How would you guys like to go forward? This will be an action item on our regular agenda that starts at 4 as far as approving or disapproving, but further discussion, diving deeper.
Do you want to do quick straw poll or?
Well, I guess I was one of the things, that I think we often look out for is too much concentration in the calendar. I think that was an issue 6 months ago. It seems to me this for the fall, it isn't. There is some overlap between events, but they're not like thousands of events.
Right.
It's like 200 or 300 events overlapping. So I don't see calendar issues. There's it looks like another thing we take into account is, variety of events. We're trying to work for more diversity, but we don't, none of these are first time applicants. So, I think in the past, we've sometimes given those greater scrutiny. And then that leaves, just events that we think, are not, cause too much noise or disruption in the community.
Right.
And I think, Rally on the Rocks is clearly in that category. I think it's, the event that's caused the most complaints at that time of that kind, excuse me. So anyway, so, my initial take, and I'd be interested to hear what other people have to say, but I'm inclined to give the green light to all these except for Rally on the Rocks.
So yeah, I'll join with Kevin. I feel the same way. I want to kind of speak to some of the emails that have come in, and obviously I won't speak to all of them. That would be torture, but I will state that the bulk, and obviously this is not a sweeping statement, the bulk of emails against were from locals that are very concerned about their quality of life. I felt like the bulk of emails in favor were from people from out of town, which I'm not devaluing that. I think they bring a lot of value to this town as far as our economy. However, there seemed to be a misconception. Many of the emails stated things like we were taking away their freedoms, we were taking away their ability to ride trails here. I want to make a statement that that is not at all what we're doing. Yeah. This is a supplementary event to UTVs. There was some emails that we were canceling an event, and that is not the case because it hasn't been approved. So we can't cancel something that doesn't exist.
Or there were some who thought that the event was just 2 days. I read two that
right. So a lot of misconceptions. So I want to state in general, that's a difficult thing in politics, specifically like misinformation. I think it's really important that when we're disseminating information, whether it comes from us or the Blue Ribbon Coalition, whoever, that we're trying to be as factual as possible so that the people that are gathering that information can look at it with clear vision. From a citizen of this county, and I live out in the valley, I will state, and I'm going to state this very clearly, they are tough on our quality of life. More recently, I've noticed like one of the few things that I enjoy doing is weeding in my yard. Most people would find that mortifying, but it's like my time to be outside and just enjoy, the end of my day. And lately, I've just had this barrage of UTVs, and I understand they're just wanting to look at the scenery, to look at our community, but it detracts from our community's ability to just have that little quiet time in the evening. And I will state that I feel that a huge amount of the feedback that we're getting from our community members are just that. Like my child gets woken up, those types of things. And that's concerning. I think that we are receptive to having UTVs in our community. Obviously, in our state, many surrounding states do not allow them on streets. I looked up quite a few states today. They're not allowed on county roads, highways. And so this state allows that. But I don't think we need to host an event that just adds more. Our community has a lot of it and we deal with it, but I don't think we need more. I think in the past that event just caused a lot of angst for our community members. So just from the emails that I've received, conversations, I need to respect that.
Thanks, Trish. Mike had his hand raised.
Well, I'm speaking on my behalf here. I speak often to both our San Juan counterparts and their staff. And I agree with you, the noise, especially concentrated noise of a short time frame event of bringing a lot of people does create a lot of noise. And I would hope event organizers, not just this, but in total of motorized events would look towards trailering. But we can't be blind to the fact that if we do not work with the event organizers in our area, San Juan's going to. And they have already voiced their opinion to myself. They would be more than happy to take this event. They will host it in the south part of our valley, and they will still be using our roads and trailways and town. I'm very happy. One of my biggest concerns with the event was actually a concern from our local law enforcement that they are not all street legal. And it was stated by Mackenzie today that the event organizer says that they will be street legal. That was one of the biggest points is the demand it put down on our sheriff's force to actually take them to and from trails not being street legal. I would rather they still be on trailers up to trails, but the option for them is to come anyway, regardless of us saying yes or no. It's open. I mean, San Juan is the entire end of our valley. Why not work with? I mean, I know this is an intent to apply, but I would rather work with event promoters of all sorts rather than just not be able to have a say in what they do, when they do it, etc. And have it run. I mean, have that freedom in San Juan. It seems like they're going to come regardless at that point. And do they have? They have BLM permits. They're going to use public lands. We have next to no say when they use public lands, regardless of driving through Moab itself, not alone, let alone Grant County. That's a hard push. I'd rather work with them to mitigate that noise. I do hate it too. We should be working with them. Not if we deny this, it's still going to happen, and that's my viewpoint.
I just want to address the points you made out of San Juan County. That has come up before in past years, when we've made questions very similar to this. And I think the county attorney's opinion is if it's an event where they're doing trail rides within Grant County or, that basically if they were to base just south of the county line and use the same trails, they would need both a San Juan County permit and a Grant County permit. I think also, for the past 3 years, hasn't been permitted. And as far as I know, it's not like it went on anyway. So I think I disagree with that assertion about, the relationship to what would happen in San Juan County.
So what you're saying is if they do move to San Juan County, then they still wouldn't be able to hold their trail runs on trails, for example, such as Hell's Revenge.
Right. If they were in San Juan County and using San Juan County trails, then,
Yes.
then then we have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, Mary?
I believe can't remember which year they did host it out in Spanish Valley. They did, and when we talked to the BLM staff, they say they will honor the requirements of the county. And so although their intent was to host it in San Juan County, they were not able to run on the Grand County BLM roads because BLM respects Grand Counties. That's their philosophy.
Right.
That's at least what happened last time.
The county attorney had his sense of. Sure.
So I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of when an event happens in the community, the event normally will contain all the information where they're going to go and what trails they're going to go on. So if somebody says, for example, we have an event at, we'll make up a restaurant, Burger King. So imagine they brought in and had an event at Burger King, they applied for Burger King. We're assuming that they're going to drive their vehicles to Burger King. Again, I'm using a place that doesn't exist. But it's important to understand that. Because if they're having their event at Burger King, if people from that place decide to go drive on trails or go on a hike, that's not necessarily an extension of the event. However, if they're advertising we're going to have a meeting at Burger King and then go do Hell's Revenge and go on a scenic ride through the Loop Road, then that would be critical to saying, well, yes, you're going to need a permit on those roadways. So that's one thing that we need to look at. Recently, it came up that there was an event. I'm not going to use the name, but there was an event in town. We had to reach out to them because they weren't familiar with the process, but they were going to do some type of race through the community. And I did reach out to them and remind them that they have to get a special events permit because they're going through the county, and having one leg of the race began in Moab and headed south. So just an example.
Mike,
Thank you for both of those points. I'm worried in more of the facts. It wouldn't be a line of 30 of them coming down the road. It would be 3, a group of friends that all met at Hell's Revenge Trail. There's no way to police that. It's already happening. That is already happening. I would rather have point of contact to say bad apples solve the problem self-policing than to try to police the 3 to 5 coming down the highway, of which I live right off the highway and I would hate. Yeah.
Bill,
I'd like to speak, I guess, just to a little bit bigger picture of it all. I do believe that a new owner has purchased the Rally on the Rocks. I was told a year or 2 ago, and that he's done a great job of cleaning it up. I don't know that personally. I don't know him. I imagine some of the people in the audience could speak to that, but the bigger picture is, as a commission, we've been sending letters to the BLM and to the Forest Service and to different organizations, and we've been asking them to restrict or completely block different events. When it seems like if we really wanted to compromise and share this sandbox a little bit, which would reduce noise and would make it a little bit easier on locals' lives in town, we would be asking BLM to work jointly with us and them and increase some parking lot sizes. We can't continue to just stop everything. Well, we can, and then we have other issues where they're breaking the law or they're coming in here. But the long-term goal is that they want to recreate here, and it is public lands. And I would far rather work with that organizer, even though I don't know him, and try and come up with something that works for all of us than to continue this attitude of blocking everything. And I understand the noise issue. I've mentioned it many times that the reduced speed limit, even though people hate it, made my life better where I live. It made my life better. And there are things that we can do to mitigate that, whether it be larger parking lots. Jacques and I discussed a little bit about parking lots when they were talking about paving Sandflats Road. It would be a great time to do a joint effort. The equipment's already there. And when it comes to construction, it's to be able to work on those kind of things would be huge as far as the time and a financial savings. But we've got to get to a point where it's a win for the locals and it's a win for the recreationists, rather than we have 73 people that are against it and 50 from out of town or wherever that are for it. We've got to start sharing the sandbox. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. We've had other people stand up and share the exact same thing. And I don't know how to get this attitude that's prevalent changed to where we're working more together to solve some of these problems, instead of constantly just a no. There's no compromise means no peace. That's what that means. And that means no peace for the people, because one side might then break the law and run through town and make everybody's life hell because they don't like the outcome that happens here. Or there's no peace and they don't get to recreate here anymore. Everybody loses when we choose to not compromise with people. Everybody loses. And I don't own a UTV. I happen to have motors. Mary, when I'm done, you can definitely speak.
I'm waiting for you. I wasn't interrupting you. I just wanted him to know.
I don't own one. I don't want one. I mean, I have bicycles and I have motorcycles and I have a Toyota pickup that I like to camp out of. But I don't want anybody telling me that I can't do one of my recreations. And I don't think that we have that privilege. Well, we do have it. We do. Majority vote can prove that today. We can take a majority vote and we can shut something down instead of working on a collaboration that would, in the long term, benefit both the citizens and the recreations. And that's what I'm looking for, is a little bit more sharing the sandbox.
Thanks, Bill. Mary is next.
I just want to say that in the past, in 2018 and 19, we spent hours with Rally on the Rocks. I met with them at their the event meeting. We came up with a lot of ideas to monitor and help the situation where all the machines would have to have noise testing, that everybody would have to watch a video, that they're, you know, I don't have it in front of me, but and they agreed to it. We worked together during that meeting, and then we worked together again at a commission meeting. And we came up with what they agreed to. And then they said, and we want to put on that we are going to give so much to charity. They asked to have that put on the agreement we came up with. So we had an agreement for 2020. COVID hit, got canceled. Next year they came. They were unwilling to do what they agreed to the year before. They said, no, we don't, and they really complained about how much money they were going to give to charity. And I said, we didn't ask you to put that in. That was your idea. So we have sat down and attempted to work. If we were like Colorado, where like in Colorado, they cannot drive through Silverton. They can have rallies and they can have things happen on their trails outside of Silverton and, you know, gather about 300 machines, have an event, but they can't ride their vehicles in town. Now, if we could do that, if the state gave us the ability to say, you can have your event, but these machines cannot drive in town, at least between this time and this time, I would probably say yes. But the fact is, they can not only ride, they can ride in town. And I feel bad for the event people on many levels, because a lot of the problems isn't around their organized events, but they've invited 300 machines into our town for a single week. And then there will be people come because they're all here because they want to be around people of like-minded, and they do their events. And I had people stop me on the street in 2018 and 19, and they were furious, and they pulled out their cell phone and say, listen to this. I took this recording at midnight last night. My family couldn't sleep. I don't blame the event, but I am concerned about inviting 300 extra UTV machines that have the right to drive around our streets. And we have tried to work with them. And then the event that was brought to us earlier that we weren't able to, what the problem was that they had missed the deadline. But I like that event. If it came back to us, I would support it. I think, wow, they did a whole bunch to mitigate the issues of the noise in town. I read through this event twice. I don't see any extra mitigation to prevent noise in town. And I represent the people that live in Moab, not the people that live in southeastern Utah, or western Utah, not the people that live in Colorado or Nevada. I represent the local people who live here. And it makes their life miserable for a week. And I don't think that's okay. And we're not denying events. We're not. We have how many motorized events that we've agreed that we approve? It's the noise of the machine. When they become electric, when they become less noisy, or the state gives us the right to say during certain times of the night, you can't ride on the street. On certain, then I would listen to it. But when people can't sleep at night because people leave bar at 2:00 in the morning and do brodies outside of people's houses. And that's not the events people thought, but it's the fact of the matter, you've invited 300 machines to come into town that are run by people that don't live here.
Kevin was next, and then
Yeah.
Sorry.
Kevin, then Mike, then,
Yep, yep.
yeah. And I'll squeeze in a word at some point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, insert yourself wherever you like. Yeah, I mean, I think I also want to take a big picture view, but I think it's different from Bill's big picture view. We're not debating whether UTVs should be allowed on public lands here. I think some of the share the sandbox rhetoric seem to be addressing that question. This is about a special event, that someone wants to hold in our community. We get lots and lots and lots. I mean, what we saw in the last day or so is a small fraction of the complaints we've gotten from residents about UTVs. It's a very serious problem. And unfortunately, as Mary was pointing out, the state has made it hard for us to deal with it. And I think the other 49 states, communities can just decide, no, we don't want UTVs on the street. If we had that ability, like everyone else in the country has, if we had that in Utah, we would solve this problem because we wouldn't allow UTVs to be driven on streets. But we can't do that. We have only limited tools available. And one of those tools is which special events we approve or don't approve. And so to me, this is like really a no-brainer. The citizens are complaining about too much UTV noise. And so should we approve a special event permit that we are under no obligation to approve? It's a privilege, not a right. To bring even more UTVs in? No, of course not. I mean, and I think that would be true. I disagree with Mary about the other event. I mean, I think, we're looking, there's a lot of visitor interest in Moab, and we can be choosy about which events we allow in. And I think, one of the thresholds they have to pass is they should not cause, unusual noise and disruption. If they do, then we'll, give the green light to someone else instead. And I think, I guess the last comment, again, back to share the sandbox idea. We've given the green light to, I don't know, is it up to 24 motorized events this year? I don't know the exact number, but a very large number of motorized events. There's just this one, so this is not, it doesn't have to do with public lands management in general. It doesn't have to do with some overall dislike of motorized events. We, approve many of them. It's about one particular event or class of event that generates a lot more complaints than any other. So why wouldn't we want to respond to our citizens and not permit that? One last small point. I think we don't have to be hypothetical about what happens if we turn this down, because we have turned it down the past 2 or 3 years, depending on whether you count 2020 or not. And it was not a disaster. So I think we should just stay the course, continue doing what we have been doing for the past 3 years.
Thanks, Kevin. Mike, go ahead, and then I'll speak.
Back to my original point, I'm going to have to personally deal with a heavier amount of noise, as it has been stated, as soon as if we deny this. I would like to reach out to the event organizer in the intent to apply part and work with them to mitigate all travel on our roadways. I know the state is a much heavier hand, and I wouldn't want to tell them what to do, but it was very openly stated. The minute we say no, San Juan will put it on the border. They will ask the event to be held on the border. We're already seeing that with the development that has a lot of questions. We are going to have to deal with the problem by trying to tell another county on what to do with an event.
I don't think we're telling San Juan County what to do. We're definitely not telling them what to do with that development. We haven't,
No,
that's
we
a lot of
could have- we
rhetoric that
could
I've
have-
heard recently.
I understand.
We're
We
telling
could
San
have
Juan
worked
County,
with that.
no, we're not.
Even in the developer, we could have worked with them kept them in Grant County.
Let's stick to the topic.
Okay.
But
We
thanks.
can work with the event organizer, keep it in Grant County.
I think everyone's made good points.
Okay.
I'll just make a different one. I did read through literally 90% of all the letters that came, every word of it. It's crazy. It's so much volume. But some of the things that struck me, and I don't think this is like a 75 versus 50 issue. That doesn't hold water at all with me. But just the passion that locals wrote with concerning this event, and going into explicit detail about how it's affected them in the past and how it'll continue to affect them, spoke to me. And then some of the letters spoke to me too. You know, people who, I think I tallied it personally. I think there was 4 or 5 locals that spoke for the event, and the rest were from out of town. But people who expressed how much they love Moab and that they enjoy doing different things in Moab. You know, they said they Jeep, they UTV, they bike, hike, whatever. And no one's keeping them from doing that. You know, this is a special event. People can come from anywhere, anytime, and use our trails with whatever type of recreating they want to do. But one thing that almost every single letter mentioned, and I think somebody, I don't know, put this out there, but every single letter mentioned the money that they bring into the community when they come here, and that's fair. But there's also a lot of money lost. I run a business it's not a motorized business. It's a bike shop, and I get tons of calls every year asking when Jeep Safari is or when Rally in the Rocks is, because people explicitly don't want to come during those events. And I think that a lot of people check out our town and they look at our events and they see an event that might not be compatible with what they want to do, and they'll choose not to come that week. So if somebody has, a week off and they want to come during one of these events and they see that it is, and I'm a big fan of Jeep Safari. I'm not speaking against that at all, but they'll see that it's Jeep Safari. My business always goes down during Jeep Safari, like considerably and noticeably. So yeah, the people do bring money. Everyone brings money into town, but to me, at the expense of locals' quality of life and certain other businesses. I don't know. Maybe it's a wash. Maybe they do bring in more money, but yeah. Trish.
I was just gonna make a couple more comments. So, one thing to remember is public lands belong to all of us. They're held in public trust, and we all have a right to do our recreations to a certain extent. You have to remember a lot of recreation is regulated. I can't just randomly run the river. I have to get a permit. I can't randomly do a backpack trip into Canyonlands. I have to get a permit. So things are heavily regulated on public lands. Just keep that in mind. In a lot of instances. And I'm not asking for them not to be recreating in the out of doors. I think the compromise would come when they're not driving on our public streets and highways. That's, to me, compromise, or allowing us to have, a time during the evening, 10 to 6 a.m., where they're not allowed on public streets. But that's like we couldn't get that through the state legislature. Simple time where citizens were allowed to sleep. So to me, compromise, I want you to think about what compromise is, and coming from that side too, right? I do think our citizens give a lot. And I will say that's the last statement is, I'm here to represent our citizens and what they tell me to do. And I do what they tell me to do. And the bulk of citizens do not want this event.
I'll go to Stephen had a question real quick, and then I'll go to I think Bill, and then Kevin, and then I'd like to wrap it up. I think we've each had a chance to speak at least twice, probably 3 times. Go ahead, Stephen.
So this is a question and I don't know the answer, and so that's why I'm asking it. I don't know if the county has ever conditioned any of these types of events with restrictions that we're talking about. The reason why I bring this up is there has been communication that there may be action done by the state eventually if they don't see the local municipalities working and giving options. So I want to ask, I think county's within its right to deny any event that it wants. So I'll say that up front. But I don't know if there has been things that we have said, hey, we would want to see this event planner doing A, B, C, and D, just like the requirements that we put on insurance and things like that. So I didn't know if there was ever an event where we said, if you want to have this UT event, you want to put a flag on their antenna, whatever, and then require them to trailer. So that was my only question.
We've done that.
Bill, I think.
Yeah, I go back to the compromise thing. It clearly sounds like Trish is big on compromise, and I believe that we should be, but the bigger picture of this is outside of just this event. And I know we're here just for this event, but we have to start working on the bigger picture long term if we want this community to come together. And I too represent the people in this county. I believe every one of us do, and I'm not saying that somebody does or doesn't. I would never say that. But there is a loud voice in this community, and it isn't always the entire community. It's the one that somebody in here reaches under and pushes their button, and out goes an email, and we get 300 of them. For example, when there was a issue about whether Bill voted on the UAC or Mary, and over sometimes we bring in people to overload us with emails intentionally when that's not necessarily for the good of the community. And I just think moving forward, we need to be looking at ways that this is a win-win situation. That's all I've got on this.
Thanks. I'll go to Kevin and then I'd like to finish up the conversation. Go ahead, Kevin.
Let's see, 3 things. Let's see if I can remember them. One, I wanted to echo what Jacques said and maybe expand on it. I think this, I mean, in my mind, just the impact on residents is enough to make this a very, very easy call. We should not be permitting events like this. We have other options. We can have a vibrant tourist economy and not have our streets and neighborhoods be noisy. There are ways to do that, and we should do that. But I think it's, even if one only cared about, the tourist economy, I think it's a bad call to do this. We had a market research done. I think it's 2 years ago now. It's called the segmentation study, but it was asking potential visitors to places like Moab, people who like to visit Western national parks, what do you think is important? And they had a big menu of options, and some of the things were, well, it's quiet at night, or the streets are quiet, or it's good for walking on the streets. Those scored pretty high, like 40% of potential visitors thought that was important. And then there are other questions like, four-wheeling or being able to ride UTVs on streets, and that only got about 10%. So I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot, even if all we care about is local tourist businesses, by inviting uses that drive people away in addition to providing opportunities. I think there are better options. We're fortunate. We're not like a tiny town who's desperate for more than zero tourists. We've already got a lot of tourists, so we have the luxury of trying to steer the nature of our tourism economy in directions that work for residents. That's the most important thing, but I think also work for local businesses. So so I definitely agree with Jacques on that one. Bill is being compromising big picture, and I agree with some of that, in that there is a larger issue here about UTVs. You mentioned parking lots and other ways of encouraging trailering. Yeah, we should definitely do that. I think we should talk about that more, but I don't think that's connected to this particular event. I mean, those are adjacent but separate issues. And then finally, I will just disagree with Mike once more about the San Juan County issue. I think, because we've discussed this before, if the event is inside San Juan County and they only drive south and use trails down there, then you're right. Then we don't have a say. They don't have to get a special event permit. But if it's based in San Juan County and they're using Hell's Revenge and all these trails that are very close and popular, then they do need a Greene County special event. So just wanted to make that clear. So we will have a say unless the event is truly in San Juan County, truly stays south of the county line almost all the time.
How about Monticello?
Excuse me.
How about in Monticello?
That would be good too.
All right.
In the middle, yeah.
All right. I think we've we've gone through this enough. So, so I guess we can take all of these conversations to our agenda item number 1 on the agenda. And any other questions or comments about the whole process of the intent to apply or
Well,
other?
I think usually the goal in this workshop is to have some idea of a motion that would pass. And so
Okay.
we didn't talk about the other events very much. At the very beginning, I mentioned giving the green light to all of them except Rally on the Rocks for, the reasons that we've been discussing.
Right.
If someone, if I'm wrong in thinking that's something that we get a majority.
No, that's great. That's a great point, Kevin. Yeah. Is there anybody who would like to further discuss any of the other events that are on here or sees any red flags or potentially not approve any of those?
If I can bring you back to item number 4, which is the Moab 240. That one was brought to you guys only because we couldn't agree in committee if it was low or high impact.
Ah.
So there were a couple high impact votes that brought it to you guys. Per the ordinance, it's low impact. I think if you.
Which one are we talking about?
The 240-mile endurance race.
Yeah, I think a few committee members might have thought it might be high impact. So just to review that again, it doesn't have to be high impact for the ordinance. So that's a consideration to you guys if it's low or high impact. That was the thing I forgot to bring up.
Okay, but
One thing to know with our ordinance, that it sounds like we'll be changing is it is by vote. So if a few people thought it was high impact, then it automatically goes high. So I think you all could look at that now and say, we're overriding that.
Yeah, that's
But
what I
that's-
wanted to bring up is that you guys could say it was low impact.
I mean, but it seems like the course we're headed on is saying, yes, it's a high impact event and yes, we approve the ITA, which seems
Same,
Good.
same, but different.
I guess there's also the issue, there was the funny event, which we know very little about. And they just wanted to, just in case they had more people. So I think part of what I was proposing is that, yes, we're approving that ITA as well, knowing that if,
That one I
Okay.
think was gonna have to be submitted for a date change consideration later.
Okay.
If they were able to make a 2023.
Okay.
date.
but my sense is that there was not, this is the, the ribbon cutting. There was not a lot of concern about that event and probably no matter what date they change it to, we'll be fine with it.
Yeah, I'd second that. All right. So as far as say a motion, when we get to our item,
Ask Gabe. Gabe, do you want us to name each, or would it be say that we accept all events as presented except for Rally on the Rocks? Would that be sufficient? Or would you like us to just name each one? We could do that.
I think just like the simple title of the event.
Okay.
so like an individual vote on each event?
No,
just name it and
Go
say,
through all the events.
we
Right.
move to approve 2023 Land Rover National Rally.
Right, I got you.
Move to approve, and just name the ones that we approve. That would be the simplest and the most clear.
Okay.
We can do that.
All right, any other discussion? All right, I will adjourn this special workshop and we will reconvene at 4 o'clock for our regular commission meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Angie and Mackenzie.
We couldn't even.